Hello, Perez. All right. So I feel like I want to make something. I don't particularly know what I want to make just yet. I just I'm thinking of doing something from Shockwave, but with guns, the most difficult part tends to be the grip of the weapon itself, and because of that, some of the Shockwave designs that I've looked at and I've thought about how I can do them has discouraged me from wanting to build them because I'm trying to hold myself to this very high standard, and the way that I would go about building some of these gun grips to make them more ergonomic and comfortable deals with a lot of difficult measurements that are easy to do in real life using bricks because it's much more simple to fine tune it with your hands, as opposed to LDD where you're making really big changes to the overall system and things like that. With Lego, it's just a little bit more difficult what it should be. Shockwave is a deviant art creator, as well as there's another website that he works on. I think it might be Flickr, but basically he does stuff like this where he goes through Pimp My Gun and he uses custom uh, parts and then other parts that aren't custom to create these, for the most part, accurate real world guns. This one, not so much. The ergonomics and controls on this one are actually very accurate, other than one thing that I can point out. So, hey Joseph, the trigger and the grip are obviously in a excellently placed place. This is the safety. I'm assuming you either slide it back and forth or it kind of like twists, kind of like a P90 but turned at a different angle. Of course, this is the charging handle. As you can see, there's a dust cover on the outside, which would make sense in a real world scenario. And then this is, all of these guns are ambidextrous, so this obviously can translate over to the other side as well. My only problem with this obviously uses the 5.7 by 20 millimeter magazine from F.N. Hostel's P90. As you can see, this is the end where the bullets actually rotate. So basically there could be two things that are going on here. It could be wrong or it could be right. If it's right, then they're stacked up and they rotate with the bullet itself facing forward, coming out of the barrel. If it's wrong and is a normal 5.7 by 28 magazine, and then the bullet itself is facing this way. Sorry, I was reading chat while I was thinking about that. But basically, if it's wrong, the bullet's facing this way. If it's right, it's facing this way. Um, I've thought about making the narwhal, but I don't. The narwhal doesn't interest me too much in overall design. I think what really gets me with the narwhal is I feel as if there should be more going on back here. Obviously, this is a more lightweight PDW. 5.7 by 28 millimeter lends itself very well to being a PDW. There's other designs that I like just a little bit more. This is one of his sniper rifle designs, the Sidewinder. I've thought about doing the sniper rifle designs before. The main problem I have with them, if we can find one real quick. Not that one in particular. Keep on going, keep on going. He's got a lot of designs that he's done, and I've done quite a few of them myself. This is the Sidewinder. We can take a look at it. My problem with doing a Sidewinder, most of this is going to be 5 studs, and then here it's going to neck down and get really interesting in terms of design. We have a 5 stud leading into a 4 stud, and this is going to have to be 4 stud because the stock here is adjustable. If I could, my ideal situation here is that this portion here is going to be made out of bracket sideways so that the stock can actually be 3 studs wide and not just 2 studs wide, and that would be fantastic. Of course, that would be a definite challenge. The other challenge that goes into this is this portion right here. Hey, Deadeye. As you can see, this barrel is what they call a free float barrel, as in there's nothing touching it underneath the barrel at all. This improves accuracy, of course. The problem is, in LEGO, there's nothing supporting it. So no matter how many 32 long axle pieces I put in this section here, it's going to end up doing this if you ever pick it up and build it in real life, things like that. And that's what's been kind of deterring me from wanting to build any of the sniper rifles. Assault rifle design wise, I've done quite a few different things. I've done the Hornet before. The Hornet was actually turned out to be really, really good because I thought about how I was going to do the handguard and things before I went in and actually built it. But there's a few designs on here that are just difficult to produce, is a good way to put it. I've been thinking about doing the Aardwolf for a while now. I've also kind of wanted to come way back to the beginning, which is this one. I believe this is the first one. Yeah, the first. I've been thinking about doing like in order. We start with this one and then we slowly work our way up. But there's a lot going on here that is difficult to replicate in LEGO, basically. So this grip, I want to be, what I'd aim for is 3 studs, and then we get these really sharp points coming off of it. That's just difficult to do. This is obviously a folding foregrip in the front, but it's just in such a weird spot. Magazine weld back here, 5.56 by 45, standard magazine, ambidextrous magazine release, ambidextrous shell ejection port, ambidextrous charging handle. This is at an angle here. This just, most of these are difficult and don't lend themselves as nicely to building as I would like them to. Some designs fare better than others. Obviously, I've built the Irio Mote before. It's just an AUG that's revamped into all sorts of really cool designs. Oops, should hit all. I've thought about a couple of these before. This is the Pompous. What the Pompous AR succeeds in the most is probably how easy it is to clean and maintain. This bullpup assault rifle's internals are based on the reliability of the AK platform, but of course made better. Fires the widely used 7.62 by 30mm rounds, so it won't be much trouble to purchase ammunition for it. Quicksilver Industries produces top-of-the-notch firearms made for easy and cheap mass production while maintaining a very high quality. Our firearms will always be fully ambidextrous, two-toned, operator-friendly, and accessor-friendly. So this would be interesting to build and figure out how to do in a sense. I think the one thing that is speaking to me on a level with this gun in terms of difficulty is two, maybe just one area. This area back here is going to be interesting to create. The problem with this area here is this grip is going to be 3 studs. It's going to come back into 2 studs here, and then it has to widen out to accept a 2 stud wide portion of the magazine. The magazine itself is going to be 2 stud wide here where it skins down, and then 3 stud wide here when it gets wider, because that's just more realistic. Perez, pistols are not my thing. I actually try to avoid pistols. My next gun from Rainbow Six Siege is the 5.7, and yeah, I'm avoiding that heavily and looking at some Quicksilver Industries weapons, so I don't have to build a pistol, basically. Like I said, some of these rifle designs lend themselves to being produced in Lego better than other ones. Obviously, the Markor right here, and this would be extremely easy to build in LED. Obviously, the problem with it is it's just more complex than other things. I haven't built a shotgun in ages. I've seen a couple different custom things like that. I think one of the more interesting custom rifles to me is this thing right here. I actually kind of like this one a lot. This is what they call the AR-57. So as you can see, this is a P90 magazine, and this is like an AR-15, but with a P90 magazine. So it takes, hey Kylan, takes 5.7 by 28. It ejects out of the magwell for a normal AR-15. And I believe that this is a standard AR lower. So obviously it takes standard AR furniture, which there's a lot of aftermarket parts for. And you can see that there's different handguards for them too. For the most part, I think this one's just void of the accessory rails. So yeah, they're just, to me, these are interesting because you get the capacity of a FN57 P90, with the PDW round of the 5.7. So that's just interesting. Just kind of digging through. Oh, so yeah, that Porygon, no progress. I haven't played in forever, to be completely honest. I've just been busy with all sorts of different things going on. I wonder if World Guns is updated. They haven't released May yet. Hey, Jose. I want to find something to build first before we get into stories, because I have a few different work stories that we can talk about. So, Disney would be a great place to play Pokemon Go at. There's usually like always lures out there. Hey, Dida, thanks for coming out watching. Good luck on your homework. Have fun. I don't know. We're not going to do. I don't know. See, now I want to do one. I just don't particularly know which one we're going to do. So, worst come to worst, we can start on one and then just never finish it. So, I guess we can do where it all began, essentially. I am also pretty hungry right now, and I got a Subway sandwich after church today, and it's like sitting right beside me, so I might have to also eat that on stream. Now that I think back on it, I should have got the guy to put more mayonnaise on it. Should have. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. So we're gonna do that whilst I talk with you guys, my dedicated fan base. And we'll start on the stream. And we'll start talking. And then we'll talk after I have just a little bit of this. I'm probably not gonna eat a lot of it for that matter. But oh gosh, yes. I would like to have some of it, at the very least. Jose, I can eat on camera professionally. Some people can't. Mostly food review channels. I hate how food review channels eat on camera. They like shove their face into it, as is tradition. brick built. We're gonna be building this thing right over here. We're gonna be building this, hopefully. Anyhow, I've gotta eat just a little bit first, and then I think we'll work around the magazine area today and see where we go from there in future streams if possible. Some of his early designs I don't like as much as I do his newer ones. This one in particular because I feel as if he's trying too hard. There's like too much going on with this. The folding foregrip doesn't need to be on this gun at all. And that's like the main area that's really bothering me. And then the area just above where the fire selector is, where it kind of like, you can tell it was a ACR grip and stuff. That's another thing that bothers me, but we can fix that as we go. Yeah. Uh-oh. All right, mate. See you later. Good luck on that project. Have fun. Thanks for coming in and checking. If anyone wants to know, this is 9-oak honey, turkey, provolone, toasted spinach, and lettuce with mayo. And that's pretty much all you need to have a pretty good sandwich. The bread is going to provide you with the sweetness. Your spinach and lettuce is going to provide you with the vegetables towards it. Your turkey is going to provide you with the meat. And then the mayo is going to provide you with just a little bit of creaminess and a little bit of egg behind all of the flavor. It works very well. If you want to get a little bit more zangy, sometimes I do banana peppers. I usually do banana peppers because they got a lot of zing to them. But this time I didn't feel like it. I felt more like a base sandwich. Though I did see that they had egg because of breakfast sandwiches there. So I might go with that next time too. We are making the Hellcat from Shockwave, or at least attempting to. We'll see. I hate honey mustard. I've tried so many times, just don't like it. This is why I don't watch the food channel, Jose, because I'll see what the food channel's making, and I'll just have like a feast, and then it will instantly make you hungry again. So I hate watching the food channel for that reason. So Jose, in the spirit of Ronnie not being here, I'll take his place for just like 1 second and ask you about that date that you went on. You know the one. It's fucked up and you know it. In spite of you, I will still eat it. I like how you answer me, but you answered Ronnie, but very vaguely, and then didn't even tell him how it went. You need to talk to Jose. That sounds like Jose's style right there. Jose is not a hoe, though. You can't call him that. Hey, Razor. I'm so Razor. Some of the work stories that we're going to talk about is why, but we'll get in that after our meeting and we start building. I live in Florida, Perez, the Sunshine State, the worst state in all of America because the craziest shit happens in Florida. We also hate Florida because it's pretty damn hot here. That's a good point. All right, let's start work now. The AK mag. I believe that this is my standard 5.56 magazine. 2.56, 5.67, 7x3. Yeah, I think that's the standard. We'll try yellows for the most part. All right. So we need to design a mag well around this magazine. If this is 3, I think the main body should be 4. I think 4 is good for that. And then this will be 3, 4. Ooh, no. 5. This should be 5. 5, 3, and then back down to a 4. So we need to fit this magazine into a 4 stud wide area. Which can be modeled like that. Nope, not doing it. All right. So we're going to talk about some work stuff right now. Here in like a couple seconds. I just want to kind of finish that up. All right. So I don't want to build while talking because I don't want to mess up the story. I want to focus on the stories just a little bit more. I said that as I start building. So work has been stressful lately. Last week I had an issue with one of the other counselors in the other division that kind of blew up in pretty much everyone's face that was involved. But it wasn't exactly the best of situations to happen, and it wasn't professional for either of these or either of the parties involved. I was one of the parties, but it was for what I thought was the right reason. And then, of course, I was shot down by the majority of everyone there. But we'll get into that as we go. The Philippines. Okay. I have a total of 4 kids in my group that have parents that work where I work, right? And to me, I feel as if you are working in a completely different group, then your kid has no business being with you, right? This makes sense from pretty much any perspective that you look at it from. I had a couple of different reasons, but I should get into that after I explain what happened. I had 2 coworkers eventually get into the story the afternoon. Basically, a coworker came in and was talking to one of my kids. I walked up and confronted that coworker because it's my job as that kid's counselor to know if anything is happening that shouldn't be happening. So if they're breaking the rules, I'm the one who's supposed to know. I'm the one that's supposed to confront them about it, things like that. Well, she goes, "No, I just have a snack in my room if he wants to um, come have some." Well, standard operating procedure is that when the children arrive, that is the point in time that they have snack. Um, and that keeps everything neat and orderly. So, of course, I denied this. He had already eaten snack with us, anyways. It's not like he needed another one. Well, as I was explaining that, you have to imagine that I'm in a fairly enclosed space with just about uh, just under 100 kids. So we're in the 90s. Basically got 90 kids in this enclosed space, and they're all competing with one another to have their conversations and talk and things like that. Certain people are playing games and everything, and you know how kids get. They get excited while playing games and they start yelling and things. So I am just naturally a loud person in situations like this because I want people to be able to hear me and not misconstrue what I'm saying. Well, that coworker took it as me yelling at her, basically, and turned her back to me and said, "I don't appreciate this," and then walked out of the room. I said, "Okay, that was weird." And then I went and found, I walked to the back of the room to talk to another counselor about what had just happened because he was a witness and I wanted someone else to like confirm my sort of the story that what I was doing was not yelling at her, but I was raising my voice to a noticeably loud level so that she could hear me and not take anything that I say out of context, basically. Of course, he was on my side. He had seen what happened. He had understood what happened. Everyone who works with me understands that I'm a naturally loud person, and it's because I need people to hear me when I'm saying something to them instead of maybe I say no. Like if you ask me to go somewhere, I might say no, but you might hear me as saying go instead because of how loud it is. So obviously I'm naturally loud to that extent. Well, before I could finish the conversation with that coworker, the child's mom that wanted to come have snack, supposedly, came charging in pissed. And when I say pissed, I mean pissed. She was very upset that I refused to allow her son to go with the first coworker. She came directly up to me and instantly started a confrontation is the word, but it's not as bad as that. She didn't like lay her hands on me or anything. She immediately came up and said to me in a very stern voice, not exactly loud, not yelling, but she was aggressive, and said, "When my son wants to come see me, he can come see me. I don't appreciate you doing this. I'm getting him." And then she walked away from me, picked him up from my group, and then walked right by me and walked out. Is basically what happened. So basically, right after that happened, a manager walked by, and I instantly wanted to talk to the manager because I wanted the manager to know that, hey, I just had a problem with someone and they need to know. And in talking to that manager, of course, that manager sided with the mother in this situation, because the manager also has a kid that goes into our after-school program. Basically, I see it from a different perspective than everyone else's. I am not a parent, thank the Lord. I don't particularly want a child as of right now. I can't particularly afford a child as of right now. Basically, when I talked to the manager, she said, "You're going to have to excuse it because as a parent, no one should ever be denied the right to see their child, right?" But I'm seeing it from a couple different perspectives. This other division has problems with ratio all the time. Ratio is the word that we use to describe how many teachers there are per how many kids there are. And that division, I believe, I could be wrong because this is not the division that I work in, it is one teacher to every 11 kids with that age group. For my age group, it's one teacher to every 25 kids. And my age group is considered anything 5 years old and above. I work with first and second graders personally, which means my age group is generally speaking 6 years old and 7-year-old. Well, this group has a problem with so many people calling out all the time that they have to take people from our division to support their division with their ratios, because our division is technically overstaffed. So we've got, at peak, we could have about 100 kids is about at peak, but that's counting everyone being there. Not everyone's there all the time, which means we would need a total of 4 staff, which would mean I would stay because I'm not experienced with dealing with the younger age group, so I can't transfer over to them. The other man would stay, and the third man would stay, and then we would have one of the women stay, because there's 6 of us, which means we're losing 2 of us. 2 of us are going to the other division. Basically, my first argument is, if they have such a problem with ratio, there is no reason that one of our kids should be in their room taking up another slot for their ratio at the end of the day, right? The manager came back with the argument, well, it is the end of the day, their numbers are down, they can't afford to take on another kid. Which is funny because most of the time when we have to fill in for them, it's at the end of the day so that those people can clock out and go home. That was her response. My problem is this manager has never done anything ill to me, and I don't think ill of her. But I'm starting to get there because this situation was uncalled for. The kids should stay with me always because they're my responsibility. And it's so clear that she's taking a side, though she tried not to. I guess I'll give her that. She tried not to, but we'll get there. My second argument was, if his name is on my chart, my list of kids, he is my responsibility for that day. And I should be the one dealing with him constantly. There should be no reason that anyone else comes in contact with him, right? This is because if he goes missing, we have a problem. And it's not just, I don't feel, okay, I gotta figure out how to phrase this right. I feel as if this child goes missing, his mother won't take the blame for it. I feel as if she'll instantly blame it on me. That's how I feel. And that's how I will continue to feel, because that's how it seems everything is being, basically. So how it would work is he would come up to me at random times and be like, hey, can I go see my mom? And there will be days where I'm just like, I don't care. Do it. I don't care. Not my problem. And he'd go down and see his mom, and then after a couple of minutes, he'd come back. Not even a couple of minutes. Sometimes it's like upwards of an hour and such, but that's kind of beside the point. Well, if he goes missing in the hallway between coming back and going there, it's a problem that I'm going to have to live with, because that was my responsibility as a counselor. And by just letting him go and him getting kidnapped or hurt or something like that is going to come back on me, right? That's always been one of my primary concerns with letting anyone go anywhere where they're not supposed to be. Because the second I lose direct line of sight with them, anything that happens is probably going to come back on me and no one else. So that was another one of my concerns. And of course, the hate my life right now. I did not mean to do that. The manager instantly basically put it out like this. Was just like, well, that's going to be her liability because she's the one who wanted him. That's where he wanted to go. As long as he asked you and you sent him, then there's nothing that you can do about it, right? And of course, this plays on me all the time, because I know for a fact that the second something happens, it's going to be my fault. No matter what they say, no matter how many times they tell me it's not going to be your fault, it's going to be her fault for wanting her kid, things like that, I know for a fact that it's going to come back on me. And I will probably lose my job over it, and I will fire for I will sue for wrongful termination, because of all the times that they told me that it would never come back on me or something like that. That's to the point where it's gotten, basically. So that was my second point. My third point was, we have a schedule. Snack time is when the kids arrive. The reason for that is because after snack time, we go into homework. After homework time, we go into outside time. That's the schedule. That's how it's been the entire year, basically. And allowing a kid to eat outside of that designated time screws it up, because at this age, if you're a kid and you see someone else being able to do what you're not able to do, you get confused, right? These double standards at these age don't work with kids. What I'm trying to get at is, if I see someone else eating and I'm not allowed to eat, I'm going to have a lot of questions about why I can't eat, how unfair the world is, things like that. As opposed to if we keep it all even, fair, I guess is the best word to have. If we stick to our standards and stick to our guns and constantly remind the students that snack time is when we get here, it's when we get here, it's when we get here, it's when we get here, and we don't make exceptions for that rule, it is easier to talk and communicate with kids about stuff like that, as opposed to just straight up being like, Well, his mom works here, so he gets exception to the rule. He can do whatever he wants. Because that has been another big problem that we have. Because these kids get to do pretty much anything that they want. Their mom works there. So they get food whenever they want to because they can just ask their parents for it. They can go to the other parents' rooms if they don't feel like dealing with me because I'm a lot more strict than their parents. They can, if they don't feel like going to chapel, because we have chapel on Friday. I work at a church. We have chapel on Friday. We are doing our Christian duties to spread the word of Jesus and the faith of Jesus into children. And that's part of our big deal. Chapels are always on Friday. And of course, these kids that don't want to go to chapel because they're kids, chapel's boring to them, they don't believe in Jesus, whatever the reason may be, disappear into the mom's rooms. And then, of course, all the other kids that don't want to be at chapel take a look at that and then get confused because they're like, well, how come they get to go do whatever they want and not have to go to chapel? How come I have to be here in chapel? Why can't I go over there? Things like that. And that happens far too often for me to sit here and constantly allow it to happen over and over and over and over. Which is why I tried to put my foot down this time and stop it from happening. And of course, I was shot down. Basically, the manager had to come back for every single point that I had raised. At the end of the conversation, she said that on a couple of the things that I was saying, that it was right. Right. So they'll basically someone else coming to get her son instead of the actual mom herself was not professional, I guess is the way to go. Basically, she said if a parent wants their son or daughter, they need to come get them instead of sending a messenger to come get them, basically. So I had problems with that. And then the two other counselors that were involved apologized to me the day after, I believe, is when they apologized to me. Of course, the apologies from these people are fake. Um, these people are basically the most fake people that you ever meet in your life. So hearing an apology from them was really nothing to me, to be completely honest. It was one of those moments where I said, okay, don't worry about it, not a problem, and didn't really mean what I was saying. I just wanted them gone. I didn't want to see them at all. So that's kind of where it ended for that situation. Haven't had too much of a problem since then. The majority of the kids have been with me. One of the kids straight up isn't with me anymore, is not in my group, which fine, thank the Lord she's not, because that kid was just woo, let me tell you. But not in my group anymore, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. Happy I don't have to worry about it anymore, but um, at the same time, she's still on my list, which means I still have to see if she's here or not on a daily basis. And of course, she's usually not in my group on a daily basis, so she's considered a part of my numbers all the time. Let's go back and read these because I skipped over these. I seriously don't believe the stress that job causes you is not worth the stress and trauma these people could cause. In your opinion, you can keep in contact with the other workers. Yeah. Nah, my pay rate's going to get jacked up to $9.50 an hour over summer, and I work full time, which is a decent paycheck every single week for the summer. But then, of course, once we get back into school year, it's going to drop back down. Have you had a job with drama before? My job is toxic because of it. Like the stress is far too real. I understand it's completely. Yep. This is my first job ever outside of YouTube and working around the house with dad and things like that. So my only other toxic life would come from high school and things like that. Um, So the magazine release is going to be a tad bit of a problem. And by a tad bit, I mean like this entire thing needs to move down, basically. We need to adjust that. So there was another situation that happened yesterday and today with the same kid that has now like just made everything way worse, basically. Um, so yesterday, and this is a tad bit of a funny story because of the imagery that I placed behind it when I first thought of what happened. Yesterday, a kindergartner came up to two of my first and second graders, one of them being the son of one of the mothers in the other division. The kindergarten came up to these two guys and was like, "Hey, we should wrestle, right?" And then the kindergartner was going to be the ref, and they were going to wrestle WWE style, right? Would be perfectly fine. It's not going to have field trip if they had fake wrestled and no one got hurt, right? The two kids that he talked to, one of them is extremely violent. Like the second he just there's something in his head where for no reason he'll just punch or hurt someone with no warning at all, just because, just fuck it, I just want to hurt you, so I'm going to hurt you. It's basically how this kid is. Well, the second someone was like, we should wrestle, he balled his hand up to a fist. This is probably the best fist I'll ever make in my life. And he punched the kid right between the eyes. And when he was dragging away, he dug a scratch into that kid's face. And another counselor stepped in, broke it up, and things like that, right? Of course, because it was the kid of someone who works there, it was a huge deal that required a freaking army to figure out what was going on, basically. The best way I could put it is she raised hell about it because her kid got punched in the face, because someone had even suggested that they wrestle, and it was an absolute nightmare for me, right? I didn't have to tell her. Fortunately, I think when I told my boss that I didn't get a chance to tell her before she left, I believe that my boss called her and informed her of what had happened. I completely skipped the funny part. Sorry, that's my fault. My bad. The funny portion is that when right before the kid punched the other kid in the face, he shouted as loud as he could, "I'm John Cena. I'm gonna RKO you," and then he punched him in the face. And when I thought of that, I thought it was freaking hilarious because you could just imagine a kid yelling at another kid as loud as he could, "My name's John Cena," and then punching him like square in the face. Like that to me was just the imagery behind it is what really got me. Of course, his mom raised a pretty big freaking deal about it because whatever, her son got punched in the face and that pissed her off. Yada 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 yada. Not that big of a deal to me. It's not my fault that. No, the mom's gonna make a big deal about it because, well, that kid's too violent. He shouldn't go here. He should be removed. That's the type of she's gonna do, essentially. And then of course we're gonna be like, no, you don't get to make that decision of who gets to stay and who gets to leave. I have thought about removing this child from the program for some time now, but at the same time, this kid, beyond punching people, actually listens very well. I've had way worse kids than this kid, to be completely honest. So to basically just kind of throw him out on that basis and that basis alone would be stupid, in my opinion. So the mom came in and BM'd the majority of the rest of us about what happened, wanted to know names and things like that. Hey, Roadrunner. Um, it it wasn't that big of a deal. Kids are kids. Kids are gonna punch one another, things like that. Like I said, it's not that big of a deal. I'm sorry that your kid got punched in the face, but your kid wasn't innocent either because your kid straight up verbally agreed at the same time to play uh, that game. So your kid is also at fault here, basically. Um, Today I had to talk to her again because her kid got into another fight, basically. Um, all of our kids were playing Nine Square, which is a version of Foursquare that involves nine squares. Imagine that. Same rules as Foursquare, except Nine Squares, nine people get to play instead of just four. It's better for large groups. Well, our kids tend to have, I don't, I don't want to call it much of an issue because it hasn't been an issue until today. Imagine that. But basically, when someone gets out, it's common practice that the kids will touch the other person and be like, "Oh, you're out," and then would forcibly remove them from the square that they're in because that's how kids are, I guess, is the best way I can put it. That didn't work like I wanted to. Basically, what's supposed to happen is that this is supposed to pivot when you push it here, or move it out here, and then when you push on it this direction, it's supposed to. Yeah, let me just work on this just a little bit more, and we'll get there. Well, another kid came up and put his hands on her son to remove him from the square that he was in, because it's what they do, and it the kid pushed him, but he pushed him so softly that I didn't even notice it, right? The other kid immediately turned around and pushed the kid so hard that the other kid fell into the ground and hit his elbow. And it would have been such a violent push that when his elbow hit the ground, if he hadn't hit it and then bounced right up, it would have scraped and it would have been bleeding, and it would have been bleeding bad at that point. I'll explain what Nine Square is after this story. Well, luckily there was a middle schooler there who obviously stepped in because he's a really good kid. I love this kid to death. Stepped in, broke it up. I came over, got everyone's eyewitness things, gave ice to the kid that had fallen on his elbow. I applied ice to it, and then I asked him straight up. I was like, "Hey, what happened?" And he admitted straight up to me. He was like, "The other kid got out. I pushed him to get out of the square, and he turned around and he pushed me hard, and I fell on the ground." I was like, "Hey, man, thanks so much for being honest with me. Honesty is probably my number one priority with kids. I want them to understand that they can tell me about these types of things and not worry about fear of retribution, things like that. It's okay. We all make mistakes. We're taught in training that that's how it's supposed to be. So yes, this magazine release. That's how I was. I was like, hey man, thanks so much for telling me that you pushed them. Thanks for being up front with me about this. I appreciate it. Go ahead and sit down to keep the bag of ice on your wound. Once it feels better, you can go play whenever you decide that you want to play. Right? That's how it was. Still got to figure this out. Well, I talked to the other kid. The other kid said that he did it because the other kid had pushed him. He was just defending himself, which is going to be a key point here in just a couple moments. So obviously, I can't just let this kid get pushed on the ground and then not tell his mom about it. So I had to tell his mom. And I kid you not, his mom said this pretty much word for word. And this really pissed me off. This is the same mom that yelled at me for not like letting me see her son, right? She came up to me and I was like, "Hey, we had an incident today. Your son got pushed by another student. He instantly turned around and pushed that kid back. That kid fell on the ground, got hurt." She looked at me and with a slight smirk on her face was like, "Well, I'm not trying to raise no sissy. My son has every right to defend himself. Goodbye, Perez." And I was like, "Huh?" Right? Every person deserves a right to defend themselves, right? That just it makes sense from the aspect that you're not gonna if someone's getting their ass whooped by someone else, you're not just gonna sit there and be like, don't do anything, be passive about it, just let it happen. Obviously, that I would never let my kids do that either. That it makes sense to me. It made sense to everyone else, right? The flip side to this is there's defending yourself, and then there is outright hurting someone, is the best way to put it, right? So I can understand pushing the other kid away from you, but I cannot understand pushing him so hard that he falls to the ground, right? Which is why when she said, my kid has every right to defend themselves, it's kind of going to come back and bite her in the ass. Because now that she said that, what's going to happen is the second her son gets hurt, I no longer feel, I don't want to say bad about it, but I no longer feel like it's a problem, basically. Essentially, what I'm trying to get at is if her son gets pushed to the ground and it's because of something that he started, then that other kid is defending themselves, and according to his own mom, they have every right to defend themselves. So the second they get hurt, well, that kid was just defending themselves. That's it's whatever, not my problem, right? Of course, she's gonna be pissed off that I would ever say something like that because, for whatever reason, give her any reason, and she'll be pissed off. It's just one of those types of people. Um, so just we'll wait to see. But there's quite a bit that goes on with the majority of all of this, and there's just so much drama and toxicity in this work environment that a lot of people have been talking about quitting lately. Basically, is what has come down to. So we'll see exactly how things go from here on out. But anyhow, back to we'll talk about this for like just a couple. We'll talk about the gun, and then we'll talk about 9 square and what exactly 9 square is because people have been asking about that as well. So give me just a couple seconds, guys, and then we'll get on to what 9 square is. Though Yana has answered already. So first things first, this is an ambidextrous magazine release. We're going to color this in 2 different parts. This is going to be the tan, and this is going to be the yellow. So the tan part here has just a couple different things going on. You push on this end here, which is what we're seeing right here. This is the fence around it. Oops. When you push on this, you have this bar that's connected here and here, which keeps it straight. That is going to move this entire section here outwards this way as far as you push this in, basically. I can actually remove that. I need to, actually. So you only need to push this in half a stud to get the magazine to remove, but the point stands. The yellow part is when you push in on this end. Now then, all this needs to do is basically pivot, and I don't think it's going to pivot. Yeah, it's not going to pivot the way that I want. Maybe if we, let's see if we rotate this, is it going to pivot? Yeah, there we go. You push in on this end, and it's going to pivot on this side, and it's going to pull this side out here, which is then going to release the magazine because, as you can see, it's no longer locked into the magazine itself on this side. We can actually come in and patch this up right here. And that's basically how the magazine's release is going to work. Oops. Crap. I think that's back to being straight. In terms of rubber bands, it's going to be between this circle post and this circle post, but it's going to be an extremely small rubber band. These are the type of rubber bands that you would use with braces, basically, is what would go right here. Yeah, that's actually helpful. Most of my systems that have come up with this revolve around using two different rubber bands, but because this L-shaped piece here is here and the rubber band is going in front of this, it'll pull. This will be, yeah, this works. This is what I needed, is what I'm trying to get at. So now we have to build up a magwell around this design. So 9 square, because we can come back to that. 9 square is exactly what 4 square is, except with 9 squares. So 4 square, because it's easier to say what 4 square is than it is 9 square, since 9 square is just an upscaled version of 4 square. 4 square is a game where you have I'm going to Google images search. So this is 4 square. This is the general idea in a nutshell. So we'll say that this is the king. So there is a king in the game, and then there is 3 other people. This king is going to always start with the ball. And the goal of the game is to become the king. It's pretty simple. In order to become the king, you have to get other people out. And there's a couple different ways to get other people out. So this king is serving the ball. This isn't how we serve, so we'll accept this picture. This kid is going to bounce it into this kid's square. This kid must let it bounce once, which is what's happening here, and then before it hits his square again, or goes out of bounds, he must hit it into one of the 3 adjacent squares. It's pretty simple. So basically, in order for this kid to become king, it goes in this direction. So if you get out, you come to this square, and then everyone moves up. So if this kid gets out, he comes over here, this kid becomes king, this kid moves up. Once this kid gets this kid out, then he becomes king. There's just an order. It goes in a counterclockwise fashion until you become king. Once you get out as king, you go to the very end of the square, and it's a constantly rotating game, basically. So if this kid wants to become king, he has to hit it after it bounces back into this kid's square. This kid must hit it back into another kid's square. However, if he hits it in his own square, he is out. If it bounces out of bounds, and he is out. If he hits it and it goes out of bounds, he is out. If he hits it once, it doesn't hit his square, but he hits it again, what we call a double tap, he is out. And then there's a couple of different rules that we have. We call shoe shining is another way to get out. Shoe shining is when you hit it so low that there's no possible way the other person could have hit it back into someone else's square. It's just a little unfair. It's a little dirty trick that they do. So that's another way that we get them out. And then spiking the ball is another way that we get them out. Obviously, if you're playing with adults and with a little bit bigger square, I don't think spiking the ball would be too much of a problem. But when you spike the ball, you hit it so hard that it just blows past someone without any way for them to without them able to get it all. So there's a couple of different ways to play 9 square. This is one of the ways. This is actually 9 square in the air. So you play with the grid above you and then you go over. We play on the ground though, and this is a pretty good way of to look at it. So 9 would be the king, and once you get in, you start here. If 8 gets out, 7 moves up, 6 moves up, 5 moves up, 4 moves up, 3 moves up, 2 moves up, 1 moves up, and then 9 comes back to where 1 is. And you keep going until you get to king, and then you become king. You keep going, you keep going, you keep going. So as you can see, this is the progression of how you move up, and you can see the crown here for king. So I personally like 9 square just a little bit better. 9 square keeps you on the toes as king a lot more, and it's easier to get the king out in 9 square because the king is surrounded on all sides in 9 square, which means as a king, you better be prepared to move, and you better be prepared to move a lot, because the ball is going to be coming at you from all sorts of different directions, and if you're not fast enough to get it, you're going to be out, and you're not going to be the best of kings. That's why I prefer 9 square over 4 square. The one in the air is a little bit harder, but it depends on what type of ball that you play with. I think the general idea is to play with a playground ball, is what I call them, basically the rubbery soft ones that are more light. So they kind of float just a little bit better, I think is the idea. I don't think, like obviously playing with like a really hard ball that has some weight behind it would really, really suck. I think a kickball would probably be the best thing to play with though. But that's just me. We had at one time a 9 square in the air ring out in the bottom field, and then over time kids would come and hang on it and things like that, so it slowly degraded. The kickball ball that I'm talking about, it might be a dodgeball, if you're wondering what I'm talking about. We went to the store and we picked up some dodgeballs, like the rubbery ones, the real good ones. You know, the ones that you could peg at people and really hurt them with, the best ones. We went and picked some up, and the ones that we picked up were really soft, is the best way to put it. They're like exceptionally light with a pretty large amount of bounce in them. That's exactly what I did, by the way. And they're just, the new ones that I bought aren't hard. That's what I'm trying to say here, basically, right? The new ones that we bought weren't hard. Now then, that doesn't excuse the fact that chances are somewhere out there are some that are extremely hard and stuff like that. But The ones that we had purchased were not. So yeah, you good at Lego? What do you do with Lego, dude? You make guns too? Are you a gun builder in the community? If you are, I had no idea. I'm sorry, I've never heard of your channel. If you aren't, what do you build? I'm not particularly good at building anything outside of guns, believe it or not. Some people are good at building buildings, some people are good at building cars. I'm pretty good at building guns. Oh wow, that gap is gonna be a pain to close. And by pain, I mean I don't think I'm gonna be able to close it. I think this is the best way to do it. I don't, yeah, I don't think doing that is gonna, yeah, it's not gonna work. I know what we could use. We could use these right here. Oops. Let's go ahead and delete this out. Place that with this. Place this here. Okay. That's good enough for that. We have to allow this end here to swing out into the open. So to do that, this piece that goes in here has to be a circle, basically. So kind of like that. I did see the Dodgy review. Kenyana knows about Dodgy as well. I'm super, super excited for her, but I'm pretty sure she's an assassin. Let's go look it up. Yeah, she's an assassin. I don't play assassins, so I'm not gonna play her just yet. I'll probably play her whenever I get around to doing assassins. Uh, but I don't. I don't think just yet. Basically, Kenyana, this is the next one. Also, yeah, mate, I'm gonna need your channel unless that was your channel. This is the next god that I was talking about. Oh boy, the Naruto advertisements. The advertisements are lagging everything. This is interesting. I wonder what Ruby skins are. Oh, Rom gets a new skin. It's going to be nice. Eugene Wei skin will be nice. New Medusa skin. Notice how I'm doing all the hunters. This is cool. I remember Duke Sloth talking about him. I think he's going to be a warrior. So we'll see about that. So yeah, we'll see whenever the next patch gets announced, which will probably be sometime next week. So yeah, this is pretty much everything that we have so far, by the way. So we're going to go ahead and save this. This is the Hellcat. Hellcat PDW. Bracket first. Quick silver IND dot in bracket parenthesis mag underscore magwell underscore mag release work in progress version number 1. Save. That is everything that we did in this entire stream. I know most of it was me eating, things like that, but we got to catch up, talk a little bit about work, things like that, and talking about Smite. Kind of wants me to go play a little bit of Smite, just 1 hour before I go to bed, basically. So I'm going to go play for a little bit. Jose, so the final color scheme is actually going to be, you know, the proper color scheme, because it's super easy to go through and change it so that it actually looks like the proper thing, by the way. So yeah, thanks so much for coming out watching. Remember to comment, rate, and subscribe for more videos similar to this one. Also hit the bell notification, get notified when I go live with a live stream or a new video whenever I decide to go through and review some of my old guns that I have stocked up since the beginning of this year, which was 5 months ago. So we'll see whenever my new gun videos and things like that come out. Also, remember to check out my website at bluejthemaestro.weebly.com. Been a while since I've updated it. I should update it sometime soon before all the guns pile back up on it, because a lot of guns that I'm going to need to add to it after I get all of this year's guns added as well. Remember to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I usually send out a message when I'm live streaming. Sometimes I forget. And then I post every Monday and Friday for social media update day. I believe I posted this Monday. I hope I did anyhow. I'll obviously post Friday. And then I stream every Wednesday and Sunday if I can. I've been thinking about switching that schedule around just a little bit. Wednesdays are bad because I have church. Sundays are bad because I'm usually out with the girlfriend real late. But we will see. So thank you guys so much for coming out watching. I will see you guys in some other video some other time. Thanks so much. See you.